CSE subject choices are an important and tough decision for all of us to make, because there are certain subjects on there that we have never studied before. We all have a few questions in our minds regarding the subject choices, and we would love to get them clarified. Over the last couple of months, our questions have been answered by Nitya ma'am, our class teachers, and even our subject teachers themselves. But we also wanted to interview students who have studied the subjects and have clear knowledge of them. We are in the third level of Connect Squad activity, and in the previous videos, we have answered questions about advanced maths and economics. So to make our decision easier, we have invited a student from AS level to take part in the interview. We have Tharun, Kumaar, and Krishna, who will be answering questions about the subjects global perspectives and individual sciences. Before we begin, we would like to thank them by taking the time to join us and being part of this interview.
These are questions from global perspectives. The first question is, this question has been asked by many people, and the question is, how is global perspectives different from other humanities?
To answer that question, I'd say that global perspectives, in my opinion, global perspectives only comes under the category of being a humanities subjects, simply because it's not your orthodox maths or a science like a physics or chemistry kind of subject. I believe that global perspectives includes humanities subjects like economics, history, social science, and so on. And it even includes your subjects in science and maths. So, to answer that question, to define what the main difference is between global perspectives and humanities, I'd say that global perspectives is in fact a collection of your humanities subjects.
Okay, so our second question is about the advantages of GP. What is your opinion, and what is the greatest advantage of GP in your opinion?
I chose GP personally for two main reasons. One is that universities really credit students who take the course of GP just because it's such a rigorous course, and it involves, like, you have to be very curious to explore and be willing to learn a lot of things. So that's one obvious reason. And secondly, I was very weak in my general knowledge, so I wanted to expose myself to things happening around the world and not just limit my knowledge to this little bubble around me. So the various discussions and debates that we had in class actually helped a lot because it exposed me to knowledge and issues happening around the world and nationally or even locally, because not everyone knows what's happening around the world. And what's more important is that you're willing to learn these things. And GP kind of creates that curiosity in you to want to explore things around you. And it also equips you with the resources to do so, because you are taught how to research, and you're taught what kind of sources to use. So GP helps you feel prepared for the real world. I think that's another main advantage.
Thank you. The third question is, um, what skills will you acquire after learning global perspectives?
So as Krishna mentioned there, global perspective is basically all about researching. You get to like research in depth and in general just improve your research skills. So you would have to research from one particular issue from a global standpoint, a national, a local, and even sometimes on a cultural, perspective. And also, you get to research credibly, and the information you collect must be reliable. So you get to learn basically the gist of research, everything that has to do with research in general. So I think that's one of the most important skills that you acquire when you learn GP. And secondly, that is your reflection, or your ability to reflect on certain things. This is also quite important in certain components that you will have if should you choose to take GP. For example, your third component being your team project. At the end of it, you would have to write a reflection on it, just giving a brief on your experience of the project in general. And why this is particularly important is that certain colleges, when you write your college essays, are particularly interested in knowing why you chose that field of study. So in that case, you would have to reflect on your recent, high school years as to why you chose a particular domain to specialize in. So yeah, I'd say that, reflection and your research skills are two important ones that you would improve on if you take GP.
Now we'll move on to the questions about individual sciences. My first question is, how did you make your choice between individual sciences and combined science? I know a lot of kids are struggling with this choice. What factors affected this decision?
Uh, to start off, I'm not really sure if too many kids struggle with this, but since you're mentioning it, personally, I didn't have, you know, too much of a problem deciding between individual and combined sciences. I always had a knack for sciences in general, so I was always going to prefer that field compared to, combined sciences, which would, also give me the option of choosing commerce. But I really didn't prefer commerce and chose for, individual sciences in general. And I think that's where if you club in global perspectives, it just reinforces the fact that you need to keep reading and keep on researching in general, because everyone has a different view on what their preferred domain is, their preferred field of study is. So once you start to read, you start to say, okay, yeah, this is what I like. I want to specialize in this, and I want to do this for my high school. So once you read and research and start to reflect in general, that makes the choice much easier.
So, in your opinion, what are the advantages and disadvantages of individual sciences?
So I think it all depends on what you want to do in your future as your career, because as Tharun Kumar mentioned, he chose individual science because he didn't really want to choose the commerce option. I think individual sciences, obviously, they go much deeper into the concepts than combined science, but they do take a lot of time. You have to be really committed, and you have to focus on all these individual sciences. And in IGCSE especially, you have to take a lot of subjects, so it may feel very tiring and exhausting. But at the same time, you also learn a lot, and it can really help you in your future career. So I think it all depends on the difference between combined science and individual sciences and what you want to do in your career. But what I would say, because now I'm not taking any science at all because I've chosen the commerce option, but I still chose individual sciences then. I think one big advantage that I have felt is that it creates sort of a discipline in you, because you have to spend a lot of time for it. So, like, disregarding all the concepts it has taught me and all of that, because I'm not using it now, it just sort of created that discipline in me to set a particular time for each subject and really focus on the things that I want to achieve.
Do you have any points or tips you want to share with us about GP and individual sciences and the AS level in general?
Okay, I'll start with the question and I'll hand it over to Krishna to give our opinion as well. But personally, I feel that once you referring to IGCSE, even if you choose something that you don't like, it's not the end of the world. You can always change. And usually IGCSE, especially the first year, your ninth grade is light on these kind of things, and it's intense when you really have to get serious on your studies. So you could always experiment for half a year in ninth, and if you don't like something, you can always switch to another subject. So, and which is obviously not the case in AS levels, because once you finish your IGCSE, you would have a clearer idea on what you want to do for college. So based on that, you would make a more um, make a better informed choice for your subjects in AS level.
Tarun Kumar said, uh, ninth and 10th IGCSE is kind of, it gives you a platform to experiment and see what fits you the best for AS level and A levels. So, I mean, choose the subjects that you're really interested in, and even if not, then try, learning other subjects. And when you come to AS and A levels, you can make a definitive choice. And it may seem like a lot of work, but if you stick through with it, AS levels, I felt it was really easy because I worked really hard for IGCSE. So kind of prioritize your needs, I think, and then it'll all be fine.
Thank you. That was very helpful. That's all with the questions. Again, thank you for taking the time to being part of the interview. I'm sure all of us will be able to understand more about the subject choices and will benefit more about it. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.